There are 2 times in my life where I remember always being tired. I was making big mistakes that would prevent me from using energy correctly. One, when I was a swimmer in college and trained 20 hours of intense workouts every week. And two, the year after I stopped swimming, I hardly did any exercise, but I was just as exhausted. Now, I finally understand why I felt tired. Amazingly, at 32, I feel more energetic than when I was 22. Quite the opposite of what the 32-year-olds told me when I was younger. And thanks to what I researched for this video, it is likely that at 62, I will have even more energy than I do today. Thanks to this channel, I have met some of the most energetic 60-year-olds in the world. They have a lifestyle full of physical activity and an insatiable hunger for new challenges. I have also known children as young as 9 years old who have the minimum energy to be active 1 or 2 hours a day. Then they are exhausted. This is not normal. In this video, I share some of the most common mistakes we make when it comes to finding energy. 2 weeks ago, we went on vacation. I spent 11 hours straight driving. I sat on the driver's seat all day, and yet I ended up exhausted. The next day, I exercised 3 times in less than 12 hours, and according to my phone, I walked more than 10 kilometers. I know, my vacations are a little different. Again, at the end of the day, I ended up exhausted. Those 2 days were a mini version of my tired years. Clearly, I moved a lot more on the second day than I did the first, but I was exhausted at the end of both. There's something weird here. That's not how I thought energy worked. I did a lot of research on how the human body uses the energy. I felt like an alien trying to understand humans. And as an alien, I discovered that humans make decisions that go on the opposite direction of their goals. One of the most obvious examples is how we try to find more energy for our everyday lives. We make big mistakes that make us feel tired, lazy, and depressed. Some of the biggest mistakes I have made to find energy are eating sweet things, drinking coffee, working out, and sitting down. Sweet things have a lot of simple carbohydrates. Carbohydrates will give you energy immediately, but for a short time. According to my initial research by osmosis, being married to a sports nutritionist, marathon runners drink a lot of simple carbohydrates because they need the energy right away. But they know this will only last a few minutes, so they have to drink or eat more carbs every few miles. Eliud Kipchoge, the world's greatest marathon runner, drinks his carefully prepared carb-loaded drinks 13 times throughout the 2-hour race. Last time he missed one, and he lost the race. In his fastest run, he drank 200 grams of carbs. That's the highest formerly recorded carbohydrate intake by a marathon runner. Just as interesting, the man who delivered his drinks is a 56-year-old German named Klaus Henning Schulk, aka Bottle Klaus. If I was an alien and I only knew this simple fact, I would say that humans are like simple robots that only need a battery full of carbohydrates and can move for a few hours. After that, they need another candy to keep going. I have already tried this tactic. Unfortunately, it doesn't work the same way if you're not running a marathon. Obviously, the food you eat is very important for your energy levels, but food is not what tells your body to move. There is something more powerful that controls the amount of energy your body uses or stores for later. In this world, some animals seem to have a lot of energy and others seem to be resting all the time. Some of them get tired after a short burst of vigorous exercise, and others can walk, swim, or fly for many hours without getting tired. In their natural habitat, none of them feel lazy. They all do what is best for them or for the species. Interestingly, there's only one creature that can run for many hours but chooses not to. Humans have many physiological adaptations that allow them to run long distances. One of them is that they do not have a lot of hair and can lower their temperature with sweat. But why is it that some humans have the energy to run a lot and others don't? This one, for example, has a lot of hair, has flat feet, and doesn't have enough motivation to hunt in the wild for food. He lives a comfortable life. His shelter has already been built. The food he eats has already been gathered and hunted. And he mostly moves for an hour or two a day to make up for the lack of movement he has the rest of the day. I'm sure if he didn't have this comfortable life, he would be able to run and search for food, even though his vision is not good. According to the data, the activity he would most likely choose to obtain food would be spearfishing. Energy for these human creatures seem to come from environment factors rather than from food, rest, or exposure to sunlight. But the invisible difference of those very energetic humans and the low energy ones is inside the skull. My mom and my aunt have a lot of energy. When there is a long physical task to be done, they can outlast any of their nephews. When they're in the zone, they hate eating or sleeping because it means less time doing. One thing they have in common with the 60-year-old athletes we've met is that they always have the motivation to keep going. This broke my brain when I thought about it. It doesn't seem to be logical from the point of view of physics. The more energy you use, the more energy you have? What is this? Are we living in a simulation or what? Let's go back to the analogy of simple robot with a battery. This time we find out that the robot has 3 types of batteries. Carbohydrates are one of them. The other 2 are fats and protein. Some people have more batteries than others. The number of batteries is not directly related to the amount of energy the little robot can use. Sometimes too many batteries are too heavy for the robot to move. Sometimes the joints of the robot are rusty from not moving enough. So even though the battery reserve is there, the robot cannot use the batteries to move. The joints begin to rust after a few hours without movement. But even if the joints are fine and it has enough batteries, it is useless if the cables do not send signal to move. And this is where the analogy breaks down, because robots don't have feelings. Yet, when we say someone has a lot of energy, we don't mean it literally. In fact, people with a lot of energy are the opposite of what we think someone with a lot of energy looks like. When I said that I met some of the most energetic 60-year-olds in the world, I meant they're not lazy in any way. They have enough motivation to do just about anything, and their bodies are capable of doing amazing things. Having a lot of motivation is what I want when I have something to do, but I feel tired. I know that my body will find the energy necessary with enough motivation, even if I was almost starving. Feeling motivated is created by a molecule called dopamine. This is what we have been looking for. It turns out that dopamine isn't the main molecule of pleasure as many people thought after the initial studies of the brain. It is now known that it is the molecule of desire and motivation. The system of dopamine might be counterintuitive, but once you understand it, it makes perfect sense. When we think about something that has the potential to make us feel good, our dopamine spikes, and here is the important part. Then it drops below where it was for a while until you're about to get what you want. It will then rise again, and depending on how good the result was, it will go up if it is more than you expected. It will go back to baseline if it was what you expected, or if it was a disappointment, it will fall still lower than when it was. I'm going to tell you a good example from my childhood that perfectly illustrates the dopamine reward system. My mother's side of the family is very artistic. I remember seeing drawings of my older cousins and how even adults were amazed and proud. So when I was 9 years old, I took a pencil and paper and started drawing for the first time, imagining that the adults would be proud of my drawing. This created a small dopamine spike, but more importantly, it created a drought. It went down. And to raise it, I knew what I had to do. I finished my drawing and I was about to show it to them. Just before they saw it, there was another spike. When they saw it and weren't impressed at all, the dopamine level dropped even lower than before. We don't consciously notice these changes in dopamine, but they affect our entire lives. Out of 20 cousins, about 11 of us study or practice some type of art. I don't know about them, but my dopamine levels went back to pre-9-year-old only after my brother ranked me in the top 3 artists of the family. According to Huberman, this is what we must do to be more motivated and more energetic. If I feel lazy, procrastinating, or tired, I should look for discomfort. This is the opposite of what I normally do. I would usually seek comfort and easy rewards without effort. We've talked about the difference between discomfort and pain in other videos. We don't want to look for pain. We want to look for a level of discomfort that is safe. Even better if this is good for you. Examples of this may include cold shower, 5 minutes of meditation, especially if you hate meditation, running, holding your breath for 30 seconds, or doing nothing. Just watch something boring, not your phone. If anything in this list almost made you cringe, then you have your answer. Doing uncomfortable things like saying the word uncomfortable will lower your dopamine so fast that once the activity is over, your brain will overcompensate and you'll have more dopamine than before. So more motivation and energy to do anything. So you have to go down doing boring things or difficult things in order to go up. After spending 12 hours of driving and then spending a full day of working out, I was exhausted by the end of both, with one major difference. My body was in a lot of pain after sitting, but the day after exercising, I was in a lot of discomfort, but full of energy. If you want to know why I and most people stop exercising, watch this video. See you there. Swim fast.